Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Ask Dr. Kelly OMD. I am Dr. Kelly OMD, board certified OBGYN and healthcare executive, here to help you live your healthiest and wealthiest life. And that's spiritually, physically, financially, mentally, and emotionally. And we do this by offering several things. One is tonight, Ask Dr. Kelly OMD webinar. Also, once a month, we do affirmation rooms where we bring you in for a mindset and a mind shift, as well as we offer Viva Life experiences through our packages. And we have a podcast called Viva Life SPF Me. But I don't want to take up all the time. And I do want to make sure that we give a proper introduction to our guest tonight, Tara Jensen. She is a guru and she is an expert in what she does. She's a dietitian and a lactation consultant, but she's going to tell you all about herself and the top 3 things you're going to get out of this tonight. Tara, take it away.
Hi, Dr. Kellyo and everybody. I'm so happy to be here. My name is Tara Jensen. I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist and an international board certified lactation consultant. That's a mouthful, but all that means is that I am the medical expert in nutrition and also breastfeeding with the lactation consultant credential. And we're going to talk about tonight, of course, the health benefits of breastfeeding. We all know that breastfeeding is the healthy option for the baby, but on top of that, we're going to talk about common pitfalls that might inhibit breastfeeding success and how to overcome them, information that you need to know. We're going to be myth busting. For instance, it's normal for breastfeeding to be painful, right? Absolutely not. Why is it painful? How can we correct it, etc.? And probably the biggest thing that I hear from people that I talk to, their biggest concern before the baby comes and immediately after usually is, I don't know if I'm going to produce enough breast milk to feed my baby, or I don't know if I am producing enough breast milk to feed my baby. Well, we'll talk about it. And lastly, last but not least, is that you have rights. You have legal rights to breastfeed in the workplace and in public, and we'll talk about those as well.
I am so excited because you've touched on all the things that I thought about when I was breastfeeding and as I am encouraging my patients to breastfeed. So we're going to jump right in. But before we do that, how do we get in touch with you? Just so everybody has that on their mind and they know how to get in touch with you before we get started.
Yes, thank you. So my website is tarajensen.com. You can reach me there, my LinkedIn profile and my email. I'm going to put that in the chat right now.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So y'all, you might ask, okay, Dr. Elmore, you're not having babies anymore, but we do know you're an OBGYN. But I will tell you, this is especially special to me because I was able to breastfeed my son while working full-time, running a clinic, and living far, far away from most of my family because of people like Tara. And, you know, between our board certified lactation consultants, our doulas, my midwife, my fellow OBGYNs, and just women who did it, I was like, I can do it too. So Tara, take it away because we want to know what you got for us.
First of all, Dr. Kelly, I'm so glad that you mentioned the village that you had behind you, because that is it's absolutely needed for the pregnancy to help with this baby immediately postpartum and to raise this baby, but also for your baby feeding journey. However that turns out, you need a support system. So let me back up a little bit, and I'm just going to touch on the nutrition benefits and the actual benefits of breastfeeding for mom and baby, because we hear that a lot. There's benefits. We know that there's benefits, but I want to get into the really meaty stuff that I think of, like the pitfalls that might inhibit your breastfeeding success. We'll do some myth busting and your breastfeeding rights. So, of course, nutrition benefits. I wouldn't be a dietitian if I didn't touch on the nutrition benefits of breastfeeding, for instance. And when I'm saying that there, you know, benefits to breastfeeding in general and nutrition benefits, these are things that formula just cannot hold a candle to. However, I need to say this for anybody whose breastfeeding or baby feeding journey doesn't work out how they want to, or they feel like they need to add formula into their baby feeding journey, just know that I support you either way. And there's no shame in here for what you feel like you need to do. I just ask that you make a very informed decision that is right for you, your baby, and your family. So some things that you cannot find in formula is that breast milk is a live tissue. And what that means is that there is actual anti-cancer, antiviral, antibacterial properties in your breast milk that you are giving to your baby. Your baby doesn't have much of an immune system when they're born. So you are basically giving your baby an immune system to help fight off all these colds and flus and bugs and everything. And for long term too. There are very specific carbohydrate and fatty acid profiles in breast milk that help with the development of the human brain. I just want to take a minute. Mammals, humans, compared to other mammals, have the largest brain compared to their body size. And so we need things to feed, making our brain that size. And those are the very specific, awesome carbohydrates and, again, fatty acid profiles that you can only find in breast milk. Formula does a decent job to mimic that, but it's, again, you're not going to see the profile, the different types of fatty acids, the different types of carbohydrates. And again, this is constantly changing throughout the day and throughout the life cycle of your baby. You are producing breast milk that is specific to your baby. And of course, there's a reduction in the risk of SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome, a reduction in childhood obesity chances, ear infections, allergies, overall baby getting sick. And probably one of the most important things that I don't think is touched on as a benefit is that breastfeeding actually helps your baby adapt to this new environment, coming out of the womb that they have known for 9 months, and then into this new world where every sound, every smell, every light, every stimulation around this baby is new to them and intense. So them actually suckling at the breast, smelling the mother, feeling the mother, being next to the body heat, it actually helps the baby to adapt to this world. And it's a natural analgesic, it's a natural pain reliever. So when your baby is going through this huge shift of world change, you get to do that. You get to help your baby come into this world a little bit more calmly, and throughout the changes that the baby's gonna be going through for weeks and months to this brand new environment that they're not quite used to yet. Of course, it's good for the mom too. When you're breastfeeding and or pumping your breast milk, you burn up to 400 calories a day producing your breast milk, which is crazy, but the nature is perfect. They're trying to, and the oxytocin helps to get the uterus back to the pre-pregnancy, helps to get the uterus back to pre-pregnancy size and body size as much as we can. And this also reduces risks of breast cancer and ovarian cancer in mom as well. So those are just, I touched on benefits. There are many, many more nutrition and health benefits for both mom and baby, but I want to get into some of the other things. All right, common pitfalls that can inhibit your success to breastfeeding. Okay, like Dr. Kellyo mentioned, this really does require a support system. And when people set out like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna do it. But hey, maybe maybe grandma and grandpa aren't on board with this. Maybe their partner isn't on board with this, but this is something that you want to do. I want to breastfeed. This is something that I want to do. Go where the support is and have a conversation with the people around you. This is something that I want to do. I would really appreciate your support. And, just have that conversation early, and also have that conversation with your doctor. Not all OBGYNs are going to be really promoting breastfeeding. So I'm so happy that Dr. Kellyo mentioned that she's promoting breastfeeding. So sometimes that's going to have to be you as parents and caretakers of this baby. This is in my birth plan. And let that be known when you get to the hospital. This is my birth plan. I want to breastfeed, because there's things that you can do at the very beginning to help your breastfeeding journey be successful. Such as, let's get into it, doing skin to skin immediately following birth. And why is this important? This helps to, again, your baby is coming from the only environment they have ever known for 9 months into this brand new environment. On your chest helps them regulate their body temperature, their heart rate, their breathing. And it also helps that bonding hormone immediately between mom and baby, which is necessary for this beautiful, healthy bond that both mom and baby need to help one another thrive in this new connection, in this new relationship, and for to thrive with growth and development. So that happens almost immediately. If you can't do it, then have dad do it. Have dad do skin to skin. Let's say, hopefully, maybe you have to have a C-section. It's okay. Have dad do skin to skin kangaroo care until you are able to. Also, if you can, we want the baby on the chest, you can tell the staff to do what they need to do, clean baby, heel prick, things like that, while the baby is on your chest. Again, this is helping baby to regulate to this world. And baby, we want ideally to breastfeed in that first hour after birth. This helps to get the baby ready to breastfeed long term, and also for milk stimulation for mom. Feed on demand. So after that first feed, look for those little hunger cues. Understand hunger cues. Baby's hands to the fist, root, pucking, sucking noises, turning head, rooting. These are all signs of, hey, I am getting hungry. Start the feeding then. Don't wait till the baby's crying. If your baby is crying, that is a late hunger cue. We missed something. So start the feeding as soon as you see those hunger cues. And colostrum, I cannot stress this enough. Colostrum is the first milk that you produce. It's a little thick. It might even be clearish. It might even look a little oily. You're going to be like, some women who didn't know, they were like, what the heck is this? I can't give this to my baby. And they expressed it and tossed it. I was like, oh my goodness, no. Colostrum is packed full of things that your baby needs. It's like your baby's natural first immunizations. It's packed full of antibodies, and it helps your baby's digestive system start working, which we want. We want that first poop to come out. All right, so I want to make sure we get to some of this. All right, myth busting. Is it normal? I've heard this a lot. Women don't want to breastfeed because it's painful. It should not be painful. Please know this. Your breastfeeding should not be painful. It's going to be a little uncomfortable. That first latch, when your body's not used to it, that's going to be uncomfortable, maybe a little bit painful. I'm not going to lie to you. However, it's not supposed to be painful throughout the entire breastfeed or continuously painful. If there is pain, not just in the very beginning, and it lasts a couple seconds, okay, we're fine. That's normal. But if it lasts longer through the breastfeed, the baby's not latched on correctly. And a nice deep latch where the nipple is far back in the mouth, that's what we want. It's going to be like a more of a massaging, suckling motion that the baby's doing, rather than like on the more shallow end of the nipple, where it's going to be more of a chomp, chomp, bite, bite. We don't want that. And that helps with your milk supply, a nice deep latch. And lastly, I know I'm running out of time here, but you have breastfeeding rights. There are not just rights, law. There's laws in California. California has some pretty decent laws. However, not all employees know these laws, and not all employees abide by these laws. But you have the right to time and space to express your breast milk throughout your workday. And this space cannot be a restroom. So it has to be a room where you have privacy and a locked door. And also you have, let me just go back up. Every company should also have a lactation accommodation policy. If they do not, you have the right to ask. You have the right to refer them to me and say, hey, I am pregnant, or I am, I want to come back to work. What are my, what is our lactation accommodation policy in HR? And if you don't have one, you absolutely have the right to have one. It is, again, California law.
The other thing, do you want to touch on the first time your milk comes in? What that is?
All right. So yes, you're the very, very, like I mentioned, colostrum. That's your body's very first milk. Again, it's different than what we call mature milk. So that's in the very, very beginning, the first 1 to maybe 3 days. You're going to have that thicker, more yellowy milk called colostrum. And then it's going to start changing into a more mature milk. So like the milk factory is going. Now, what can happen is that when it comes in, the breast milk making factory tissue can get really engorged. So it's like, wow, it's really coming in now. And you might need a little help because it can be very painful. You can be swollen. Even your areola can be swollen, and it's going to be hard for the baby to latch. And this is where I cannot stress this enough. Like one of the pitfalls is just not knowing any of this up front. And you're just like, forget it. I give up. I can't do this. But there's ways to work around it. Have a lactation consultant if you don't want to or can't or whatever. There's limitations to hiring one-on-one. Through the hospital, outpatient, they are available. So, and a lot of them have a 24-hour helpline, which is crazy, but awesome, because if it's 2 a.m., you are fully engorged, you don't know what the heck to do. We can walk you through that. But yeah, it is a little normal to feel that intensity when the milk comes in, but there's ways that you can help that calm down. A lot of women have no idea about hand expression. And you can actually hand express your breast milk. You don't need a pump. And that's a great way to help to get the milk flowing. Even the colostrum, I saw that there's a question in there. Even the colostrum, and if you are a little engorged and swollen, to help get the milk, a little bit of the milk out to where your breast is a little softer and the baby can latch easier.
We have a question. Can you please elaborate on pumping for relief versus pumping to empty?
Okay, so this comes into play a couple different ways. I'm assuming that this is pumping for relief, like when there's engorgement happening. And correct me if I'm wrong to the person who is asking the question. So if there's engorgement, if there's swelling, and you're just trying to get the breast a little softer for the baby. So one thing that you want to do is just pumping to relieve a little bit of like helping the milk flow. And you're not going to do this for very long because obviously you want to save the actual breast milk and the feeding for the baby. So all you're doing is, for instance, if the areola is swollen, if the breast is really hard, you can do some gentle massaging and a warm compress, or get in the shower, right? And this just helps the milk to start flowing, and helps the breast get ready for the feeding. And also, again, you don't need to pump or express before you latch the baby every time. This is just when your milk first comes in, or if you happen to go longer in between feedings and you're feeling a little engorged and uncomfortable. Sometimes the baby can latch just fine if the breast is a little fuller, but sometimes it's harder and you need to express a little bit. So you're just doing it, you're just expressing just a tiny bit, maybe a couple minutes. If you have a pump and your milk is flowing, you can pump or hand express just for like a minute or two until the breast softens. Again, you can do the gentle breast massaging to help the milk flow, express, pump. When the breast feels a little softer, then you can go ahead and try to latch the baby on.
Is it better avoid bottles, pacifiers, and pumping for the first month of life to avoid nipple confusion?
Love this question. Thank you so much for asking this question, because that is another huge common pitfall. Okay, so yes, the answer is absolutely. For the first month, 4 to 6 weeks, if you can, avoid all artificial nipples. So no pacifiers, no bottles. Let me tell you why. So it's not so much nipple confusion as it is nipple preference. So what happens when, because at the breast, your baby has to work to get the breast milk out. Now, this is a baby who's gone through the birthing process just like you have. And in the first couple of days, they're going to be a little like groggy, but like they are going to have to work, and they're working their muscles and their jaw in new ways. Like this is work for the baby. Now, if you feed them a bottle, which sometimes you might need to of expressed breast milk, or if it's a need, you might have to give them a bottle. Now, when you give them a bottle, even if it's a slow flow nipple, it's going to flow faster than it does at the breast. And what happens is that the baby's like, oh, this is great. I should have had my little bottle, but it flows a lot faster, and the baby gets used to the flow of the bottle, and not having to really work to get their meal. And then you try to put them back on the breast, and they're like, what are you doing? Like, give me that other thing. No, thank you. And they're turning away, they're upset. And then mom feels like, oh my gosh, they don't like me. I must not have enough breast milk. So if you can, let's avoid any artificial nipples. And the pacifier, why we want to avoid the pacifier is because the suckling motion actually helps to soothe the baby. So they actually can be sleeping past their hunger cues, past when we want them to be feeding. So we don't want to miss that, especially in the first 4 to 6 weeks when your body is really revving, like the milk making factory. We want it to be at full capacity, and that usually doesn't happen until about 4 to 6 weeks, where your milk supply is good. Like we're good.
Awesome. Great question. And thank you for that answer. We have another question. For those of us that may be traveling in the first 3 to 6 months of our child's life, do you have any recommendations for when it's okay to start pumping to be able to have frozen milk? Should we start early or wait for the first month or so?
That's a good question. So hopefully if you have to start pumping immediately because you're going to be gone soon after the baby's been born, you can start pumping. You can start pumping very early on, even in that first month. We just want to make sure you're not pumping too much so that your body thinks that you have twins. So there's ways to do that, because it is supply and demand. Exactly. So there is supply and demand. Gosh, we're running out of time, but you can start early. I would just really recommend that you talk to a lactation consultant to guide you through that, especially if you're in that first month when we're trying to get the breast milk supply where we want it, but we don't want to make sure we're overproducing. Okay.
I was just going to think about that, because a lot of us, even though we know that there's policies in place to stay, some people have to travel regardless. The work is making you go, and maybe some other things that we need to do for ourselves as well. And sometimes work isn't aware of the policies either. So that's the great thing about you, because you're a consultant. You don't just consult the patient, you also consult the company. So if we need to policies, then we can go from there. We do have one more question that I think we can definitely answer. Is it possible for your baby to be allergic or sensitive to your breast milk?
Oh, such good questions. I love this. Okay. Components in your breast milk. Okay. A lot of times, probably the most common, but it doesn't the most common allergy, but this doesn't happen commonly, is cow milk protein allergy. So that's mom consuming cow's milk, and then the baby's getting sensitive to what the cow's milk protein in the breast milk. So it does happen, but it's a very easy fix. You just stop eating dairy. Just stop eating dairy. and your baby's fine. And usually it's a quick you can see the difference quickly from your baby being showing signs of sensitivity or allergy, which is usually like green, foamy, frothy stool, foul smelling, vomiting. But again, consult your pediatrician and lactation consultant. But it is possible, but it's an easy fix. So don't stop breastfeeding if this does happen.
Yes. And one other thing, and I'll tell you, I'm a case report in medicine. I actually got hives from breastfeeding. So oxytocin, which is the natural medication, natural hormone in your head, your brain, gets released along with the breastfeeding. And so I started breaking out, and I'm like, what am I eating? What am I doing wrong? Well, I have oxytocin allergy, right? However, that did not stop me from breastfeeding. You know why? I took a Zyrtec and I kept going, because what I produced for my child was far more important than me, unfortunately, having some itching while I was breastfeeding. So we got through it. So there's ways to get through a lot of things. And the reason why I tell you guys these things is not because I'm trying to deter you, because I am all for breastfeeding. If you're able to breastfeed, chest feed, or pump and use your breast milk to bottle feed, I'm all for that. The wonderful thing is we have lactation consultants on here, and I'm always promoting our lactation consultants, our doulas, our midwives, and our OBGYN medicine practitioners, and our pediatrician. There's so many people that are willing to help you through this. And that being said, Tara, how do we get in touch with you again?
My website, tarajensen.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, and I'm gonna put my email in the chat. It's just tarajensenrdn@gmail.com. I am so happy to be here with all of you. Thank you so much.
All right, y'all. So I'm just going to need, if you have anything else for us, please, please, please go ahead and utilize our information to get in contact with us so that we can personalize consultations for you. And I just want to say thank you so much. This is a wonderful evening. Continue to follow Dr. Kelly OMD on Instagram as well as on Facebook. And we are here for you. So have a wonderful evening, and don't forget to do what? Viva Life. All right. Thank you for being a part of the Viva Life experience. I'm Dr. Kelly OMD, board certified OBGYN and healthcare executive. If you like what you heard, then please go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. The reason why is because we are trying to educate, encourage, and inspire 1 million people to live their healthiest and wealthiest life. And this is what we're bringing you. We're bringing you educational videos. We're bringing you podcasts. We are bringing you webinars with subject matter experts, including myself, about the topics that affect you the most. So go ahead, like, subscribe, and share. We are everywhere. Have a wonderful day. Viva Life.